What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Extra DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, Week 4 main slate first look. It's later in the week. This will be the last first look video I have for probably a month, but with that, I'll make up for it in end of the week type of content. So we're just transitioning based off of my schedule. So let's get into it. Let's get into the reason you're here. So, two quarterbacks over 8K this week. Josh Allen against Miami, which I think is the highest total, if I'm not mistaken. 8,200. Jalen Hurts, 8,000 against Washington. Both those I like. Obviously, the price is high, but I think both of them have good matchups there. Herbert against Vegas at 7,800. Justin Herbert's price is up there, rightfully so. Quarterback 2 on the season, I believe. So, yeah, that's right there. Lamar, 7,700 against Cleveland. Would watch for some injuries. Baltimore's kind of banged up. Skilled position-wise offensively. They're getting some linemen back, but Cleveland's defense is really good. Tua against Buffalo, 7,400. I don't know when his price becomes too unplayable, but, I mean, after that game, I mean, they've looked really solid so far this year. But Tua hitting 30 fantasy points in 2 of his games. But it is a rougher division game, and I would prefer Allen over Tua, but the way that offense just was, it's very hard to not have some love for Miami. And then Kirk Cousins, 7,100 against Carolina. Still like it. That'll be a good game, in my opinion. But, yeah, Kirk Cousins, 7,100. Like that price and matchup for him. Anthony Richardson, if he does play, it appeared that he was practicing. 6,700 against the Rams. I like that price. I like the matchup for him. Justin Fields at 6,600. As bad as he's played, right? We can look at his numbers easy here. In 16 and 2 games, 11 and 1 has not really, for his price point too. You saw 7,700 to start. 7,600, 7,100. We're down to 6,600, right? At what point does the Bears move on and go a different angle, right? Go Badgett instead of Fields. But until then, playing arguably the worst 2 defenses, right? One team has to win. Both 0-3 teams. Someone's going to come out 1-4. The other one, or 1-3. The other one 0-4. But I think Fields' price is really, really good here. I think the opportunity in this game plus his price is very good. So 6,600 seems like a really good play for Fields. Burrow, 6,500 against Tennessee. I think is a really good opportunity for Burrow and his pass catchers to have a really good game against this Tennessee secondary that's been very, very bad. But you could also look at Burrow's fantasy numbers. In 16 so far, his highest in 2 games under 10 fantasy points. So it's not like it's the most desirable thing right now, but I think his price is really, really good in this matchup, especially for how good Tennessee's run defense is. Means Cincinnati's going to have to pass the ball to win. 6,200 Dak against New England. The price is good. The matchup's just bad. Don't really like that. Deshaun Watson, 6,000 against Baltimore. I do like that price and matchup for Watson. I think that's a solid price for Watson in that matchup. Brock Purdy, 5,900 against Arizona. I think this is a really good opportunity for Brock Purdy, being very solid. I mean, look at his fantasy numbers. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, right? Really big game against the Giants last week. Averaging 30 points a game. So San Fran is definitely going to be on the watch this week for ownership. Russ against Chicago, 5,800. I'm okay with playing either quarterback in this matchup, right? 2 really bad defenses. The offense, at least for Denver's side, is not all that bad, right? 16 against Vegas, 33 against Washington. They still managed to score 20 points against Miami somehow. But Russ's fantasy numbers, I mean, pretty solid. 15, 30, and 18. So quarterback that's 5,800 with a lot of upside in this matchup. I'm okay with Russell Wilson. I think there's some really good quarterback plays this week. Stafford against Indy. Another good matchup and price point. Granted, you look at Stafford's fantasy numbers, right? 18 is so far his highest. And that's with them putting up 30 in a game, 23 against San Fran, 16 against Cincinnati. But it's the turnovers that are kind of hurting Stafford's true upside. And their red zone rushing is just really good with Kyren Williams. CJ Stroud against Pittsburgh, 5,600. I don't hate it, right? Look at his numbers as well. I mean, he's been exceeding expectations for where Houston is. No picks yet. But Pittsburgh's defense is a solid unit. So I don't hate, but don't love either. Derek Carr expected to be out, so Jameis Winston at 5,300. Baker against New Orleans, 5,400. I'm probably just not going to get a lot of exposure in that game. Jimmy Garoppolo likely out. Watch that. We could get some crazy value. But 5,300 if he does play. If not, we'll talk about that in just a second. Bryce Young practicing, 5,200 against Minnesota. If he's in there, I don't mind it, right? I don't mind it. Look at the two teams he's kind of played and what they've had. Still throwing over 30 times a game, which is not bad at all. So has a little bit of rushing upside. So Bryce Young, 5,200. I don't hate it. Adam Thielen's got a really good matchup. Mac Jones against Dallas, no at 5,200. Dalton, same thing. If he plays, he's got great value at 5,100. Kenny Pickett, 5,100 against Houston. Not really there yet. I like the run game for Pittsburgh. Probably Warren, if anybody. Gardner Minshew, if he ends up 5,100, it's a good discount against Rams defense. Sam Howell, 5,000 against Philly. I think if Washington can somehow get the ball downfield, right, and not turn it over 4 times, there's some opportunity here against a Philly team who their defense might be getting healthy and good. So we'll see what that looks like this week. Big division game. I like Philly in that matchup. Tannehill, 5,000 against Cincy. Don't love it. Dobbs, 5,000 against San Fran. Don't love that as well. And then here's where the value comes in, right? So Hoyer seems to be the next guy up for Vegas at 4,900. But we're going to go all the way down at 4,000. And we're going to find Aiden O'Connell. He could be the value of the week this week if Vegas goes with him over Hoyer. I believe the upside for O'Connell versus Hoyer is a big difference, right? So 4,000 Aiden O'Connell could be a crazy value. So watch for that injury news. Watch to see who they play. Because Aiden O'Connell, if Garoppolo's out, he's going to be on the active roster. If he starts, I don't know. But there's a good shot he gets in that game. So look out for that. He looked really good in the preseason, so we'll see what that looks like. Running back, 2 running backs over 8K this week if Eckler plays, but McCaffrey over 9,000 against Arizona, who it's one of the best matchups you can ask for a player like Christian McCaffrey. 9,200, love it. If Eckler does play 8,500, same thing. I love that against Vegas. I think that's a great matchup. His price is high, but he's worth it for that price. Tony Pollard, 7,800 against New England. I don't hate it. I really don't. Don't mind that at all. So 7,800 Pollard, I think, is a solid play as well. Jacobs, if he can get his running game together and figure it out, I'd say it's good, but his price is just high for what he's been able to produce this year. So, yeah, he's not there. Like, if it's not for the receiving numbers, right, 4.8 in this game, he's down to 7. All of his numbers came in the receiving game against Buffalo. And then Denver, 4.3. So he's down to 4-something fantasy points there. He's not having a good year running the ball, and that's what you need out of Jacobs. Derrick Henry is a no against Cincy. Mostert, I don't mind it. 6,500 against Buffalo. I don't mind it. He gets receiving work. I'm okay with Mostert at 6,500. Mixon against Tennessee, no. Cook against Miami, yeah. Like I'm okay with playing both Mostert and Cook in lineups this week. I think that's good. Stevenson against Dallas is a no. Kamara against Tampa Bay is interesting. I don't know if I want to go there yet, but we'll see what it looks like. I'm just not sold on it. Kyren Williams, 6,000 against Indy. Kind of burnt some people that played him in the Monday showdown, but 7 targets to him. Some of them were just I wouldn't even consider them targets, but you do with that information as you will. But 17 targets in the last 2 games. It seems like Stafford is checking down to Kyren quite a bit. So that's something to look out for. I like the passing game for the Rams more than I do the rushing. Zach Moss, 6,000 against the Rams. Taylor is not going to play. It's no. Over 20 fantasy points a game against Houston and Baltimore. I'd say it's a good game for Moss here against the Rams. Price is just not going where it should for how he's performing right now. So yeah, Moss I think is a very solid play. James Conner, I mean, look at the kind of teams he's played and the fantasy points. So James Conner is there, right? Arizona able to run the ball pretty good so far with Conner this year. 5,900. I don't love it, right? But we saw Kyren Williams had a good game against San Fran, so do with that as you will. Alexander Mattison, I'm waiting for him to have his breakout game as a starter. I don't know if it's ever going to come. It's a really good opportunity for him, but I'm not sold on it yet. Miles Sanders, I don't mind it at 5,800. All right, he's getting some good receiving work to make up for his rushing upside, or his rushing performance, not upside. So the difference between like a Miles Sanders and a Josh Jacobs, right, is the price. So if Josh Jacobs is down here, it's a different story. But Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs are pretty much comparable right now. Chan, 5,700, right? Would rather just play Mostert. But we'll see what that looks like. I just prefer Mostert. I'd have to see another week of HN to have a good game before you go there. Miami just, using their running back, so we'll see what that looks like. Swift against Washington, I think, is a solid play. Rashard White versus New Orleans is a no. Brian Robinson against Philly is a no, right? Javonte against Chicago, I think his price is interesting. Hopefully he gets some more volume. This is a good game for him, too. But we'll see what Sean Payton does with him. Najee against Houston, I think, is a good opportunity for him. In all fairness, I'd go down to 5,000 Jalen Warren than I would Najee at that price point. Ford, 5,400 against Baltimore. Yeah, I mean, Zach Moss had a good game. I think it's a good opportunity. Kareem Hunt was out of practice today, so I'd watch for that. If Hunt seems kind of limited throughout the week, I think Ford at 5,400 is okay. I don't know if I want to trust Josh Kelly ever again. I don't, right? Last 2 weeks, combined 6.6 fantasy points in 2 weeks, and he's getting opportunities. 24 carries in 2 games. But one's against Tennessee, one's against Minnesota. I don't know. It should be a good opportunity for him. I don't know if I want to get sold again on him. Edwards is a no. Cleveland's defense is just good. Gainwell, no. Right? Swift is clearly the better running back. Running pretty good. Dameon Pierce, I think his price in this matchup is really good, right? Had a good bounce back game. Gets a touchdown to kind of make up for it. But, I mean, the rushing yards he's getting, you got to factor in who it's been. Baltimore, Indy, right? But we've seen teams run against Baltimore, so do that as you will. Kind of that touchdown upside. Jalen Warren, 5,000 against Houston. Like I said, I'd play Warren over Najee as of right now. Just looks better in that system. Cam Akers is interesting to watch. I'd say Cam Akers might be playable over Mattison, but I don't know. I'm waiting for Mattison to have his game, but I don't know if we get there. Rashawn Johnson, I keep mentioning it, is going to be the lead back for the Bears sometime. His numbers are really solid, right? 6 for 7, 2 for 2, 2 for 2. Rushing 5 for 20, 4 for 32, 8 for 38. So solid numbers. He just needs more volume, right? So I think it's a good game script for both teams in all aspects, except for some of the passing on Chicago, but both running games, and I'd say passing games for both teams for the most part has upside. We keep going down. I don't see anybody really that stands out. P. Ryan there at 4,700, splitting work with Javonte, so that's got some value. Tajay Spears, I guess, 4,700 is the name to watch out for. Getting a lot more snaps. Now, if that volume comes, is different, but it is definitely out-snapping Derrick Henry at this time, so that's something to watch out for. Go to wide receivers. Two above 9K, and it's the same two as last week, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. Both have good matchups, right? Tyreek Hill, we've seen his matchup. You can't have a bad matchup with Tyreek Hill. You just can't. Even against New England, right? You just can't have a bad matchup. 5 for 40, still gets a tutty. 2 explosive games against Denver and the Chargers, so can't have a bad game there. Same thing for Justin Jefferson. The yardage, right? The targets, consistent numbers. The touchdown upside just makes him that much better. So Justin Jefferson, another solid play with Carolina. Banged up defensively. Diggs against Miami, yes, 8,100. I like that. Adams against Chargers at 8,000. Yes, I like it. No matter who the quarterback is, he's going to get his targets. 20 targets last week. 20. Crazy. Keenan Allen against Vegas, yes, with unfortunately Mike Williams down, yes. Jamar Chase against Tennessee at 78. I think that's a pretty solid pay down for Jamar Chase, right? Starts off 8,100, has the explosive game against the Rams at 7,800 and kind of stays there in price, so don't mind that. A.J. Brown against Washington, 7,700. I think that's a good price point for him as well, right? Another guy that had a good bounce back week. 14 targets, 131 yards. I mean, look at the wide receiver ones, right? Just really quick, we'll go back to it. Justin Jefferson, 7-13, 149 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 9 for 11, 157 and a touchdown. Diggs, right? 12 targets, 111 yards. Adams, 20 targets, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, 20 targets, 215 yards, no touchdown, right? But it doesn't end, right? Jamar Chase, 15 targets, 141 yards. It still doesn't end. A.J. Brown, 14 targets, 131 yards. Mike Evans, right? Still, 17 fantasy. Like, these wide receivers. Debo, another name. Like, these wide receiver ones all had really good games, right? There's almost nobody that did. Like, CeeDee Lamb is an outlier, right? Chris Olave still having great games. His targets are there. So, wide receivers are getting work. Wide receiver ones. It's wide receivers twos that bring some question marks. But let's get back to it. Devontae Smith, 7,500. I think I'm going to stay on the A.J. Brown route for right now. I think that connection needs to get there between Brown and Hurts. So, Olave against Tampa, I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with Olave, 7,100 with Jameis as his quarterback, just airing it out to him. Mike Evans against New Orleans. We all know the Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans situation. So, probably going to stay away from Mike Evans this week. Debo, if he's healthy, yes. If he's somewhat banged up, right, Brandon Ayuk, 6,200 is a good pay down. T. Higgins, 6,800, would have to watch the injury news. As far as I know, it was just cramps. But we'll see what that looks like. Puka Nacua at 6,700. Yes, playable here, right? Has his regress game, right? 7 targets, 72 yards against Cincy. But against his Colts secondary, I think it's a really good opportunity for someone like him. 6,700, so don't mind it. Jerry Jeudy, I'd rather go Cortland Sutton for whatever his price is than Jeudy right now. Michael Pittman, 6,500 against the Rams. Yes, I don't mind it with whoever is his quarterback, right? Having some really solid numbers so far this year. 11 targets has been pretty much his average. What he does with everything else, is up to him in the quarterback play. But he's getting targets, whether it's Gardner Minshew or Anthony Richardson. They're getting Pittman the ball this year, so that's good. Maybe it's the Chris Godwin train. I've been burnt 2 weeks in a row of playing Godwin over Evans. Will not do it again. Brandon Ayuk, I mentioned, if Debo is kind of limited this week, watch for Brandon Ayuk. I mean, his game is really good, right? Amari Cooper against Baltimore's defense, 6,100, yes. Gabe Davis, I'd say Gabe Davis has some upside there, right? DeAndre Hopkins, no, at this point, unfortunately. Jordan Addison, his price is starting to rise a little bit, which is worrisome. I think he's been a... eventually I'll get this off. There we go. I mean, his work so far this year has been pretty solid. So, his price is just rising a little too much. DJ Moore at 5,600, I think is underpriced in this matchup. But you look at his numbers that he's had so far this year. But gets a touchdown last week to kind of make up for a really bad game against Tampa, 19 points there. So I think it's a good opportunity for DJ Moore. Just watch the matchup. As long as he doesn't see a lot of Surtain, should be good for him. Zay Flowers against Cleveland, it's not the greatest. I'm not going to lie. So we'll probably go somewhere else than Baltimore's offense, besides maybe Lamar. But we'll see what that looks like. Tutu Atwell, 5,500, I think is also playable. Right. You look at Nakua's numbers, and then you look at Tutu's numbers, right? Tutu putting up some great numbers. Started off the year at 3,000 all the way up to 5,500. So really having a good breakout year there. Jacoby Myers, 5,500 against Chargers. Yeah, another guy. I mean, his price for what he's done so far this year, very solid. Started off 4,800 up to 5,500. George Pickens against Houston. Some injuries there. If I believe Stingley's out on IR, maybe I'm wrong on that. If he is out, I like Pickens there in that matchup. Sutton, yeah, 5,300. I play Sutton over Judy as of right now. McLaurin against Philly, no. Thomas against Tampa, maybe, right? I'd lean towards Olave, but I think Thomas for his price is good. Nico Collins, 5,100 against Pittsburgh. I'm okay with that. Kedrick Bourne, no. Marquise Brown against San Fran, no. Go down and look and see if there's anybody else. Elijah Moore, right, had a really solid game, 12 fantasy points there. Tank Dell, 4,600. Yes. Here's one to watch out for. 4,500 Adam Thielen. Last 2 weeks, right? 20 fantasy points against New Orleans, 34 against Seattle. Now he faces his former team, who's allowing that much to in passing yards. So regardless who the quarterback is, I think if Dalton's in, it's a lot more desirable. But Adam Thielen, 4,500, I think is a very solid pay down price at wide receiver this week. Keep going down. I don't know if there's any more names. Maybe Tyler Boyd as a sneak play. Marvin Mims, 3,900. I think this is the play, right? Kind of look at his numbers since Vegas. 2 for 131 and a touchdown. 3 for 73. I don't know why that's not mathing. The special teams touchdown, that's why. Special teams, right? But he's playable as well. Not really seeing much elsewhere as far as value. So we'll go to tight end. Tight end, 6,500 Hawkinson against Carolina. I'm okay with that. Andrews against Cleveland, no. That connection hasn't been there so far this year. Kittle against Arizona, I think is playable. Taysom Hill, 4,500 against Tampa. Interesting. No there. Goddard against Washington, no. Henry against Dallas, I'm okay with Henry against Dallas, right? He's getting targets, right? Getting end zone targets as well is something huge, but had a bad game against the Jets. I mean, that game was just ugly in general. It's not the most favorable matchup, but yeah, I'm okay with playing Henry. I'd probably rather pay down at a tight end position or pay up for like a Kittle or Hawkinson than go in this mid-tier price for tight end. Higbee, no. Komet, no. Njoku, no. Everett, still no. He's not where I want him to be. Ferguson, no. Firemouth against Houston is a yes for me. Hayden Hurst, I'm going to lean no on that one as well. Juwan Johnson, no as well. Kincaid, I think, is a solid play if he could finally get some volume, right? He had 2 targets in the first quarter against Washington, and then was left out of the game pretty much from there. So whenever he gets his volume, I think it's going to be big. Maybe Ching is the only other play that I see down here. But yet again, someone else that's going to have to get some volume. Not getting the volume that a lot of people thought he would. But maybe this is the opportunity for him. I mean, Donald Parham, right? 3 touchdowns in 3 games. Other than that, he really hasn't done much. But he's a touchdown upside guy at this point. Big red zone threat for the Chargers. So that's something to look forward to. Defense, we're just going to go down and look at the values. Arizona against San Fran, no. Raiders against Chargers, no. Washington against Philly, maybe, right? I think Washington's defense is still able to make up some aspect. Hurts has got some turnovers this year. Their offensive line very solid, but, I mean, Washington for the price you're paying. Carolina, no. Miami, no. Bears, no. Bills against Miami, maybe, right? I mean, you also have to factor in who they played, but the Jets is their worst game so far, and that was with Zach Wilson. That's 5 against Vegas, right? 10 against Washington. I mean, they just had a crazy defensive game that boosted their stats, but this Miami offense is something scary, so don't know if I'd go there entirely. The Browns against Baltimore might be a really solid play there. Indy against the Rams, right? I think the run defense is good. And you kind of look at some of the numbers they put up defensively so far this year. Some solid fantasy numbers there. Yeah, that's. I think that's where I'd max out at is probably the Colts against LA. But their secondary is also bad. So, hope you guys did enjoy the video. I will have the showdown video going out tomorrow morning. So, if you guys are looking forward to that, it'll be posted really early in the morning. So, definitely check that one out. And I will see you guys in the next one.